Hello, we're talking about blood typing today. So, we have three alleles that we use in blood types, A, B, and O. A and B happen to be the dominant alleles, and they can become codominant, which we'll talk about in a second. Or you can have the O allele, which is recessive. Now, when you are inheriting your blood type, it's just like anything else. You get one copy from mom and one copy from dad, or one allele from mom, one allele from dad. So, when we are talking about phenotypes that give you your genotype, your phenotype, again, is expressed based on your genotype. Now, you have four different phenotypes possible for blood type. You have type A, you can have type B, you can have type AB, and you can have type O. So now we need to talk about our genotypes. For this one, we're going to start with AB. AB is the easiest one because you literally get one allele, like A, from mom and one allele B from dad. So this one only has one genotype. It literally tells you what it is in the blood type. For O, because it's recessive, we also know that because it's recessive, you have to have two copies of it. So this one also, in a way, gives you the genotype. Because it's a recessive phenotype, you need two alleles, or two recessive alleles. So it has to be type O. Now these are a little bit different from type A and type B. Type A, you could have two different genotypes, same with type B. So for type A, you could literally have one A allele from mom, one A allele from dad, or you could have one A allele from one parent and one O recessive allele from one parent. Now again, this is because A is dominant over O. For B, it's very similar. You could have one B allele from one parent and another B allele from another parent, or you could have one B allele from one parent and one O allele from the other parent. So now that we know a little bit about our genotypes and phenotypes for blood types, we can do some practice Punnett square problems. So problem one, again, it should hopefully turn up on your screen somewhere. A parent with AB blood and a parent with O blood are having a child. What are the possible blood types the child can have? So for our parent with AB blood, we know that the genotype is going to be AB. And for the parent with type O blood, we also know that because it's a recessive allele, that they have to have two O's. So we are crossing AB with OO. So now we just have to follow our steps for our Punnett squares. So now that you have that set up, pause the video and see if you can solve what's inside the Punnett square. Now that you have seen that, we solved the Punnett square, we can figure out what the genotype and phenotype chances are. So if we're looking, we have two AOs in the boxes and we have two BOs in the boxes. So we have a 50% chance of, or 2 out of 4, for genotype AO. And we have a 2 out of 4 chance, or 50%, for BO. Now, thinking back to our phenotypes, if we have heterozygous AO, so A over and O together, that means that A is dominant over O. So we have 50%, or 2 out of 4, for type A blood, And we have 2 out of 4 or 50%, same thing for type B blood. So these were the only two chances only two types rather, that one of their children could have. They could either have type A blood or type B blood, and they would have to be heterozygous A or B. There's no way you could get an AB child or just a type O child from this cross. Here's another example about a Punnett score with blood types. A parent who is heterozygous type A is having a child with a person who is heterozygous for type B. What are the chances that their child has type O blood? So right away we're thinking type A and type B, how can you get type O blood? Well, it is possible. So heterozygous for type A would mean that the parent has 2 different alleles, but since A is dominant, we know that it has to be AO because O is going to be recessive. You might have been tempted to put AB blood, or a genotype of AB, but that would give you AB blood because those are codominant alleles. So we know for heterozygous type A, it has to be AO. Now, the other parent is heterozygous B blood. So we know, same thing, that it's going to be type BO or genotype BO. So our cross is going to be AO crossed with BO. Now we can set up our Punnett square. This is the part of the video where if you would like to try and solve it, you can pause the video and see what you can do. Alright, so we've solved our Punnett square. Now we need to list our genotypes and phenotypes because we're looking for the chances that their child has type O blood. So for our genotypes, if we have crossed AO and BO, we notice that we have 1/4 or 25% AB. I'm just going to use fractions here. We also have 1/4 AO, 1/4 BO, and 1/4 OO. For phenotypes, this means that we have 1/4 type AB, 1/4 type A, because remember that allele, the O allele is recessive, and we have an A in front of it. 1/4 type B, again for the same reason, and 1/4 type O. Now, if we go back to our question, what are the chances that their child has type O blood? We can see it already. It is 1/4 or 25% chance that their child will have type O blood. One other thing to consider when talking about blood types is that many of us have heard, oh, I'm O positive, I'm AB negative, or that type of thing. And those positive or negatives are the Rh factor. It just is another protein or antigen on the surface of a red blood cell that determines if you are positive or negative. So its presence would mean that you are positive for Rh. Its absence would mean that you are negative for Rh. So if we look at this cell, it has A's, so we know it's type A blood, but it also has those Rh's. So this would be Rh positive or an A positive cell. This cell just has A's in it, and it has no Rh's. So we can say by not having Rh's, it would be A negative. Therefore, talking about Rh factors, that would give us 8 different types of blood. So you could have A positive, A negative, B positive, B negative, AB positive, AB negative, or O positive and O negative. Now, when we talk about those positive negatives, those come into play when we're talking about blood transfusions or donating blood or accepting blood. For those of you that are O negative, this is the universal donor. My mom actually has type O blood. Her blood can be given to literally anyone because it is O negative. Now, for those of you that have AB positive, if there are any, that is considered the universal recipient, meaning that they can receive blood from anyone else. Now, for the other differences or who can accept what blood, I'm going to hopefully find a GIF that I liked because it really illustrated it well. Otherwise, you'll see something come across at some point, some sort of graphic to help you understand who can accept whose blood if you don't know that already.